In rural China, traditional timber harvesting practices developed over centuries as a careful balance between human needs and the rhythms of nature. Long before the rise of industrial forestry, villagers relied on nearby mountains and community woodlands for building materials, fuel, tools, and ritual objects. These practices were not simply economic activities. They were deeply embedded in social organization, seasonal cycles, and moral philosophies influenced by systems such as Tao Te Ching and Analects, which emphasized harmony, moderation, and responsibility toward the natural world. In many regions, especially in southern provinces like Guangxi and Guizhou, forests were collectively managed by clans or villages. These community forests were often divided into specific zones, protected areas near water sources, rotational cutting areas for timber, and hillsides reserved for fuel wood collection. Elders or lineage leaders set rules about when and how trees could be cut. For example, large trees suitable for beams or ancestral halls could only be harvested with communal approval. Cutting a tree without permission was not just a legal violation but a moral offense against the community and ancestors. Timing was crucial in traditional timber harvesting. Villagers paid close attention to the lunar calendar and seasonal changes. Trees were often felled in winter, when sap levels were low. This made the wood more durable and resistant to insects. After cutting, logs were sometimes left to season naturally in shaded areas for months or even years before being used in construction. This patient approach contrasted sharply with modern rapid extraction methods. It reflected an understanding built through generations of observation that sustainability required restraint. Traditional tools were simple but effective: hand axes, saws, wedges, and ropes. In mountainous areas, timber transport was an impressive communal effort. In some parts of southern China, such as Fujian, logs were floated down rivers during the rainy season, guided by skilled workers who knew the currents intimately. In other regions, wooden sledges or bamboo rollers helped move heavy beams downhill. These techniques minimized environmental damage compared to heavy machinery, although they required significant human labor and coordination. One of the most remarkable examples of sustainable forest management can be seen among the Dong people in villages like Jiaoxing. The iconic wooden drum towers and wind and drain bridges were built entirely without nails, using complex interlocking joinery. To supply timber for such large communal structures, villagers practiced selective cutting and long-term replanting. Certain hills were designated as feng shui forests, believed to protect the village's spiritual and ecological well-being. These forests were strictly preserved, demonstrating how spiritual beliefs reinforced conservation. In northern regions near Heilongjiang, where forests were denser and winters harsher, timber harvesting also supported livelihoods through trade. However, even there, traditional methods often included rotational cutting cycles, allowing forest sections decades to regenerate. Knowledge about which tree species such as pine, fir, or camphor were best for particular uses was passed down orally. Carpenters and woodcutters held respected positions in rural society because their expertise ensured both structural safety and efficient resource use. Importantly, traditional timber harvesting was closely tied to architecture. The classic wooden courtyard homes and ancestral halls found across rural China depended on precise timber selection. In regions influenced by Hui-style architecture, especially in Anhui, large, straight trunks were prized for beams, while smaller branches were used for furniture or tools. Nothing was wasted. Bark, sawdust, and offcuts became fuel or fertilizer, reflecting a circular approach to resource use long before the term became popular. However, the 20th century brought dramatic changes. Population growth, state forestry policies, and industrialization altered traditional systems. In some areas, collective practices weakened, and overharvesting occurred, especially during periods of rapid economic development. Yet in recent decades, China has introduced reforestation programs and ecological protection measures, partly recognizing the wisdom embedded in older village-based management systems. Today, traditional timber harvesting practices survive in modified forms in certain rural communities. While chainsaws and trucks have replaced hand tools in many places, the cultural memory of sustainable use remains influential. Community rituals, seasonal awareness, and respect for forest spirits continue to shape how some villages interact with their surrounding landscapes. In conclusion, traditional timber harvesting in rural China was never merely about cutting trees. It was a complex system integrating ecology, technology, social governance, and belief. Rooted in philosophical traditions that valued harmony and moderation, and sustained by communal regulation and generational knowledge. These practices offer important lessons for contemporary sustainable forestry. As modern societies confront environmental challenges, revisiting these time-tested approaches may provide valuable insights into how human communities can live in balance with forests rather than simply extracting from them.